Greetings, YouTube. I don't know how many of you are aware what's going on in Wisconsin at the moment, and in particular the protests going on in Madison, Wisconsin. But it seems that their governor, Walker, is attempting to bust the unions that public employees are members of. Doesn't much like the whole concept of collective bargaining on the part of public workers, teachers, things like that. In an effort to clear out protesters, Governor Walker had requested the police to remove the protesters from the Capitol building. Instead, some 600 police officers joined the protest. Because I think Governor Walker failed to understand that a police union is still a union. And even though the cops in question are not at risk of losing anything, they would not be on the chopping block of Governor Walker's particular desire to bust unions, they're still members of unions. And union folk stick together. I'm not a member of a union. The company I work at doesn't have a union. But if we did, I would be a member. My father is a member of the Postal Employees Union. I am a member of the Postal Employee Credit Union, which is a banking facility created by the union members of the postal employees, and I'm a member because my father is a member of the board of directors, and at one time was an active employee, even though he is now retired. My wife's a member. My ex-wife's a member. We are supporters of credit unions and people's ability to collectively come together and do the things they want to do. Collective bargaining is a very powerful tool. Any politician that tries to break that is also a tool. Unions helped so many things in America. 40-hour work week, weekends, workers' rights and protections, health care. Pretty much all the rights you have as a worker in America were created by unions. Without them, we wouldn't have these rights. So Governor Walker's desire to break the union's ability to collectively bargain is unethical, immoral, and quite frankly distasteful. Particularly because he's attempting to take care of a $140 million budget gap by doing so, by trying to get the unions to give concessions on their contracts. And I should point out that the unions actually have decided they will give the concessions that Governor Walker is asking for. They will just not give up their right for collective bargaining. But the budgetary shortfall that Wisconsin is experiencing is related to the fact that Governor Walker gave tax breaks in Wisconsin to the tune of $140 million. So if he hadn't given those tax breaks, there would be no budgetary shortfall, and this whole process wouldn't have started. But this doesn't have anything to do with budgets, folks. This has to do with pandering to the people that elected him, that paid his campaign contributions, and making sure that public officials, employees, workers, have no bargaining power. Now, one of the things I've heard about this whole controversy is that, well, who's going to represent the public, the voter, the taxpayer? Guess what, folks? Public employees are the public. They are the voters. They are the taxpayers. Every one of those people votes. Every one of those people pays taxes. These aren't aliens dropped on Earth from Venusia. Alright? These are regular, everyday people who've come together collectively to give themselves a stronger voice than they could individually. Much as the Supreme Court recently decided that corporations can collectively pool their money and bribe people more effectively than individual Americans can. Funny, but when Americans come together to do this in a union, that's seen as bad for some reason. But when corporations buy politicians, gee, that's just, the free market. So yes, I am aware that, the whole concept of a union makes some people nervous. They think of it as an evil, commie socialist plot. But unions are a proud tradition in America. They've granted us so many rights and privileges that we just take them for granted. Generations of Americans have been born and lived in a world where you had a 40-hour work week, where you had rights, where they couldn't make you work without overtime pay. That people have just forgotten how those rights and privileges got there. And they got there because of unions. And some people in unions are the police. And sometimes the police remember that, and they stick with their fellow union members, because all of us together can do a whole lot more than any of us can alone.